I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Hello, testing, testing.
I hear you.
Okay, very good.
Jesse is.
Hello, hello, Commissioner Horn. Is Commissioner Hornbuckle there? I cannot see.
No, not yet. Oh, there we go. Well, hello, hello. Good, how are you? Thank you.
Hi,
I had
Jesse.
something
Thank
new.
you.
How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Hi, Mickey. And thank you again for the paella tickets.
Oh, you're welcome. I clearly did not buy enough, but next time.
Oh, no, yeah, you did. That was awesome.
So,
Rico Fever thanks you.
hey guys, I'm going to tell you what I have going on here, and I want thank you, Jesse, for running the meeting for me. Jeff's having a reunion of his closest fraternity brothers here in Colorado. So I've been here for a couple of days, and the wives are included this time. So they are all just arriving. So I'm going to stay muted as much as possible because it might get noisy here. I think the first folks pulled in the driveway just as I was signing on. So I feel like I'm the house mom.
I'm Mickey.
Hi there.
Are you in Colorado?
I am. I was just saying to the others, my husband is having a reunion with some of his fraternity brothers, and they've invited the wives to join them this year. So we're at our home here, and I've been here a couple of days setting up, and everyone's just arriving, just as our meeting is starting.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Is it cool there?
Oh, it's cold.
Oh,
I've been wearing
wow.
sweaters and fleece jackets, and yeah, at night it's cold and it's rainy, but we've had a couple of beautiful days, and the weather, the wildflowers are beautiful, so it's very green.
Well, good. Hey, Tino and Brad. Good to see you.
Hello, Jim. Hi, Brad. Hi, Mickey. Chair.
Guys,
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll be starting shortly. I think we have a quorum. We're just getting our notes together.
In the meantime, can I say, Tino, what a fantastic performance, man. Tino's the Broadway singer. Oh, man, I mean, like, man from La Mancha. I mean, like, awesome.
We have a few minutes before we start. Tell us about it, Tino.
So a few years ago, I started doing concerts because I missed singing, I missed performing. And through St. Jude, I pulled in some singers from here, people from the community. I've had Scott Roods, who was the Booker T. I've had Ian Derer, Robert Quincy, um, Kamika King. I've had different people participate because I know, how talented they are, and they might not always have the opportunity, especially somebody like Ian, who's heading up the Dallas Opera. So this year's concert was a farewell Broadway themed concert to my boss, who's leaving the chapel after 49 years of being a priest for the diocese. And so he let me pull in the show so that we could do a dinner and a show. And this time I only used musicians who work here at the chapel, and really got a chance to stretch them, because if you knew the person who's saying "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman and "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," she's never heard those songs before. She's never sung things like that before. And the first rehearsal we had with the band for "This Is Me," it was near perfection. I mean, she just knocked it out of the park. And then she took on "Don't Cry for Me" because we had another singer, Dr. Erica Simmons, who is now in Africa with Barbara Hill Moore, doing an opera. She's doing Carousel of all things, which I did a song from Carousel, and then she did she was supposed to do a song from Carousel, and somebody else ended up taking that. But yeah, it was just so much fun. I love doing it, and as you can tell, I love to perform and share. So
Where was it held?
on the Levy event space, they got on my radar during the pandemic when I was helping the folks at 24 Hour Dallas start up. And I was the chair of the arts committee. And we decided to do a big tent pole fundraiser. So we uh, our committee settled on a digathon, a telethon, in the spirit of the old telethon, and we were going to do it for 24 hours. So they said yes to host us, and for 24 hours we broadcast artists, arts organizations doing performances, having a little discussion about their art. It was great, and we ended up awarding close to $45,000, but to individual artists. And we made the grant application a 9-question questionnaire, very easy, 10 points max, I think. And so ever since On the Levee has been on my radar, and they've been a big supporter of the arts community. So yeah.
And who was the lady that sang "Don't Rain on My Parade"?
That was Lillian Rivas. She performed in the Digathon, and she sang the Lakme duet with another friend of hers from high school. And so that's when I met her. And then she graduated from SMU in a composition and performance for voice. And she's been singing as a cantor here for a couple of years now.
Where is the
She
levee?
On the Levee, it's 1108 Quaker Street, right by the Levee in north of the Design District.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she knocked it out of the park.
That's an understatement.
I'll get the video because we hired a videographer to document the evening. And then it all ended as a finale, a surprise, with Father Beershank singing "My Way." That was the big surprise.
I saw it last year and it was great.
So what? What what did you see last year, Jim?
Uh, the Broadway show, or Ian Derer singing and you singing.
Oh, you came? Oh my
Yes.
God, did I forget?
You said hello to me after the performance.
I have not slept. I was here by 6:30 because we had this pilgrimage taken off from here to the cathedral. I really have not slept since January. I'm sorry, Jim. That was a fun show because I got Ian Dara to sing after 30 years. And when I heard him during rehearsal, I said, Ian, take the song. Even though I wanted to sing it because it was Henry Mancini's 100th birthday. And it's one of my favorites, right? Moon River. I said, you take it. You are so good. And he said, no, I'm going to do it by myself. So we kept it as is. And that was fun. And Quincy brought down the house with his Old Man River.
Old Man River.
So
Really?
cool. That was fun.
Okay, with that being said, we're gonna get started here. We have a quorum. It's 4:08, and we have a 4:38. I'm sorry, and we have a quorum. Unfortunately, our chair is in Colorado right now with cool weather and beautiful mountains and all of that, and you're stuck with me. So I call this meeting to order. On our first agenda item, we're going to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Does anyone have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second, and it's been captured. Then Commissioner Daniels. I would like to take a vote. Raise your hands and let me see what we have there. Okay. Those opposed? All right. It looks like it passed unanimously. Thank you. All right. Where am I? Sorry. Oops.
I'm sorry. I thought your first statement was there any discussion and then any opposed? And so I didn't raise my hand, but if you did say all in favor, then I'll raise my hand. So yeah, it's unanimous.
I probably made that mistake. I apologize. Bear with me. We don't have our wonderful leader today. So that's a mistake on my part. But I recognize you. It's unanimous. All right. So the next thing is our discussion is community artist funding program. I know who that is, and she could jump right in and take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, good. It's good to see you all. I don't get to see you all very often. So today, I would like to begin by apologizing because the deck that you received by email was had some errors. And so we had to fix those errors to make sure that things were accurate. So what you may see on the screen will very much, most likely not be what you have in front of you. So I apologize. However, the show must go on. Can they see the screen?
Can you see what's being shared with you right now? Okay, great, thank you.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about funding reallocations for CAP. If you would remember, per the CAP guidelines, during the month of May, staff reviews all of the CAP artists and organizations and their awards and how much funding they have left. And if by May 15th they have not spent at least 40% of their award, then we consider reallocating some of those funds to the artists who have spent a lot of their money and need more money to keep going for the rest of the year. One of the reasons why we started doing this was because in years past, we ended up at the end of the year with a lot of extra money where artists could have used it throughout the year. So that's why we decided to do that. Next slide, please. Okay, very good. So the funding reallocation, it wasn't very complex. It was just a breakdown of what we were able to unencumber from artists who didn't use their funding, and that's $54,025. And then this year, graciously, we had an extra $20,000 from the Dallas Black Dance Fund that was allocated to CAP. So we had a total of $74,025 to reallocate or allocate to the artists, again, that ran out of funding. Next slide, please. If you will see in front of you, these are the artists that received additional funding. We looked at all the artists. At first, we looked at everyone who had spent 100 to 90%, and then we went all the way to 80%. And so all of these artists spent way more than their 40%. And so this is the reason why they were able to get additional funding. Not yet. Okay, so I will pause here for any questions that you may have. So because I don't think you had this full slide in your deck that you received. So I'll let you kind of absorb that for a moment. Yes, sir, there's a question on the floor. Sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hlomo.
Yes, I'm just curious, did Kamika King and Danielle apply on their own as one CAP artist and then Kamika applied on her own?
Oh, no, that's an error. I apologize. No,
okay.
no. That's on there twice. So let me explain that. Thank you. I'm glad you actually brought that up. So what I tried to do is make this as simple as possible. And by doing that, I made it complex. So Kamika King, okay, let me start with, if you look at Natalia Padilla has $5,600. That should have been the same for Kamika King. However, I didn't catch it. So the reason why that is because we had, we split the funding for, as you will see on the next slide, we split the funding for regular CAP services, and then we had CAP funding for what we call Rainbow Days. And you'll see that on the next slide. So in your mind, Commissioner Halomo, Kamika King is only there once, and she has $5,600. Does that make sense? No.
Because you say so.
No. I want you to understand. So, okay. So the list, I'll explain it now, even though it's going to be on the next slide. The list from Melvin Bullock down should have included Natalia Padilla as well, but I tried to combine it so it wouldn't be confusing. The list from Melvin Bullock down, including Natalia Padilla, with the $2,600, that is funding for Rainbow Days summer camp. That is a camp for homeless children. And so we allotted funding for that specifically so that the CAP artists would have, to ensure that they would have money to do that camp. Now, the other $3,000 that they received is for the regular CAP services by request as needed when needed. Okay, and so my intent was to put Kamika in the same bracket as Natalia and just put it all together, but in my haste, I failed to do that. So that's the explanation.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, don't take my word for it. I'll explain it. Okay. All right. So at this point, Chair, I think we need to do a vote or something. Are there any more questions or concerns?
So voting item?
Yes.
Where is Rainbow Days on here?
It's on the next slide.
Oh, okay.
Do you need a motion to accept the mid-year reallocations as recommended? Is that what's needed?
Yes, please.
If the chair will permit, well,
There's
I would
one more
like to.
question.
Commissioner Hlomo.
Yeah, if you've referenced the next slide twice, I wonder if we need to see that and get more context before voting.
And
Would
I'm
it be helpful?
happy to do
Or-
that if you would like. Yes, so let's go for it. Okay. Again, in my effort to simplify things, that's not working very well. Okay, so this is the next slide. So this is a recap of all the funding that we have had available in CAP, in the second half of the year, if you would. If you'll notice the first line that's underlined, that's the $20,000 that we got from Dallas Black Dance that was allocated for CAP. If you would skip down to the bottom, because you're voting only on CAP, right? That is the funding, the 52.2 is the funding that was reallocated from our May audit from the artists that, of course, had not spent their funding. And then, in addition to that, we kind of bundled it together to ensure that we had funding for the Rainbow Days Summer Camp. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Rainbow Days. We have been working with Rainbow Days for the past 7 years, but it's been very understated, and I kind of wanted to bring it up to the forefront because this is something that the CAP artists do every year, but it's really not something that we highlight a lot. So we do save a little bit of funding to ensure that we can provide these services because Rainbow Days is a summer camp for children who are homeless and children who are in a very precarious situation. And so we want to make sure that we can provide those services for them. And then if we don't allocate specific funding for them, there's a good chance that in just going on our day-to-day services, that when they request services for their camp, then we may not have enough funding for it. So this year, knowing that we had the extra $20,000 from Dallas Black Dance, we tried to make sure that we allocated a certain amount of funding for the summer camp.
Is there any question? Oh, okay. Commissioner Holomo?
Thank you. Back when we were talking about redistributing Dallas Black Dance, there was a line item for the cultural centers doing something, I think, together, focusing on dance. That's not any of this here, right?
That's correct. Rhonda's focusing in on is sort of this summary at the top, which is what you'll see, that 70,000 is everything that's sort of under her purview, right? 20,000 that was added to the cap reallocation, and then that other 50,000 below, which are the community arts programs that side of her team works on. So that's correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
Chairwoman Bregalon?
I just wanted to add my voice to Rhonda with respect to the Rainbow Days Summer Camp. I wasn't familiar with this organization, and one of my husband's partners did that Leadership Dallas, and they introduced young leaders to various boards, and so he started working with Rainbow Days just as a volunteer a number of years ago. He and his wife chaired their luncheon last year, and he is now the president of their board. And so I've attended that luncheon 5 or 6 years now. And what they are doing with those, these really are children that are at super, super high risk. And the transformation that you see with what Rainbow Days is doing with them, and a whole lot of it is centered on arts. Every year at the luncheon, they have a group of kids who come and sing, and they talk a lot about how they do other things other than the arts, but it really made my heart sing. I did not know about this organization before Terry became involved in it, and they really are doing some tremendous work. So Rhonda, I didn't realize we were doing things with them. So I can tell you from things that I have seen personally, I feel like that this is right in line with the mission that we talk about on this committee all the time. So I was very happy to see that that's how you decided to use that reallocation of the DBDT funds.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Chair Bregalon.
Are there any more questions? Okay.
So we can go back to the previous slide, please. Thanks. I'm sorry. I apologize, sir.
No problem, no problem. Keep going.
No, I was just talking. That's it.
Oh, Chairwoman Bregalon?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the 24-25 cap mid-year reallocations as recommended by the office staff.
Second.
There we go. We got a first and second. Any discussions? All right, let's take a vote. By showing your hands, that means you're in the affirmative. There you go. All right. It looks like it's unanimous. I'm sorry, any opposing? Seeing none, it's unanimous.
Thank you all very much
All right.
for indulging me in putting up with my complicatedness. But okay, the next slide is what you were telling me about. Okay, so I'm going to briefly just talk a little bit about the Dallas Black Dance funding for community arts. As we mentioned, we have we were allotted 70,000. 20 of that went to CAP, and then the other 50 right now, we actually have Dallas Live concerts going on every month throughout the city of Dallas. So if you're not aware of that, please let us know because we thought we shared that information. And if not, you're missing some good concerts. So we have concerts going on throughout the park. It's usually on the second or third Thursday of the month. And if the weather is nice, it's outdoors. If not, then we have indoor options. So that's one of the things that we're doing with the funding. Another thing that we are doing is we've created summer camp programming for rec centers and libraries that had summer camp programming but did not have a cultural component. And so we, of course, said, well, you need a cultural component. And so we've sent artists to various parks and libraries to make sure that they have that cultural or artistic service in their summer camp. And then last but not least, we allocated $5,000 to the AAPI Heritage and Dragon Boat Festival that happened a few weeks ago. If you were able to attend, I'm sure you had a great time. If you didn't, we missed you and you missed a good time. So that's what we've done and we are doing with the extra 50,000. And so if you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to address those.
I want to know about, like, for the summer campus.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay, so with what we did with the summer camp programming, thank you, Glenn, is we reached out to artists, people who applied for CAP and were not funded. So this was an opportunity for them to do something, CAP-like, but not necessarily be in CAP. And so it was, we reached out first, we gave them first right of refusal to all the ones who applied for CAP last year and didn't make it on the roster. So thank you for reminding me of that. Now, sadly, a lot were not available, but at least the majority of them did take the opportunity and are working with the summer camp program right now. So, yes. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. I also want to take a liberty and thank Commissioner Nugent for being in our meeting. Thank you for being here, sir. And I want to pass the plate over to Julia. She's going to take the mic now.
Hello. Thank you so much for your time. I apologize for walking in late. I'm going to debrief on how our COP panels went. And just a general overview, most of this is all good, which is just such a joy to be able to share with you. It was a much larger group than we've ever had, and it also went more smoothly than I've ever seen it. So yay. That's the overview topic sentence here. As a reminder, COP is our annual operations funding. Eligibility, everybody that we're going to talk about has at least 100K in annual revenue, 3 years of a 501c3 status, 1 staff member paid through W-2, and a Dallas location with a majority of their programming located in Dallas, and at least 1 partridge in a pear tree. Typically, organizations are awarded funding as a percentage of revenue, which is how Allocations has typically done it. And then just a reminder how we've pivoted over the last few years. 2 years ago, we instituted sort of a minimum for each tier as a percentage of revenue to kind of get everybody a little closer to being based on scores. Last year, we used a significant portion of the hot tax to be able to cover our extra costs. And we changed the guidelines for 2026 to begin a 3-year cycle. So this will be the last panels that we have in a big way for the next 3 years. So it was really important that these went well and were meaningful to the organizations that did them, because there'll be a little bit of a gap where these organizations will reapply every year, but they won't have to do the panel process. It'll be admin only. So with that said, Gigi, if you can keep rolling, here's sort of a picture of where we are. Organizations applied in March and April. During April and May, their wonderful panelists that I'll tell you about in a second had a chance to review their applications. We had a full week. We camped out in the Dallas Public Library for a week and heard Q&A from all of these organizations. And this is June, where my staff and I are going to be looking at admin scores, and really getting into the weeds of a lot of it, which is a lot of fun and really interesting, actually. So that next month we can bring you a picture of sort of preliminarily what we're looking at. In August, we can start thinking about what a vote looks like so that you can bring it to your fellow commissioners in September, and we can bring it to City Council in October. So we are moving right along in our usual timeline for this. Here's how it went. We had 70 applications, which is more than we've ever had. The great news is that every single organization we funded in, excuse me, that should say 24, 25, reapplied. So that's all 54 organizations that we are supporting this year. Everybody got their application in full and on time. Whew. As you recall, that has not been the case the last 2 years. So that is a really, really huge joy. Additionally, 14 new or immediately returning organizations applied and had a strong enough application to go to panel. I've broken it out here. There are several Arts Activate awardees that are coming up, like Pegasus Contemporary Ballet, Swan Strings, Spark Dallas, Young Leader Strong City. There are organizations that have been, that have been past COP awardees. The Women's Chorus of Dallas is back. Dallas Black Dance Theater is back after a hiatus, and the Dallas Symphony Association I included here just because they're doing something a little different in that they're not just the children's chorus, they applied as the full organization. It's a really good mix across a lot of different tiers, and they brought a lot of really, really strong ideas to the table. I think it'll be really interesting to see their scores. Several of these organizations got the highest panel score of their tier, which is pretty neat and says a lot about what they're doing as they're up and coming. So I'm excited to show you that next month. 2 organizations also submitted letters of intent or got pretty close, but for a couple of reasons did not go to panel. We can look forward to Arts Activate and other applications from them this coming year. Beyond the Ball is a nonprofit that does, I think they decided that their programming was mostly STEM and sports, and so would not necessarily be the best fit for us this time for this program. But they might be interested in an Arts Activate project later. And Let the Beat Build, which is indeed an arts organization predominantly teaching young people to be DJs. They are not quite old enough, but they are definitely big enough and are doing really, really neat things in Dallas, so they will reapply in the future. For these panels, so we had 68 organizations that came to panel. Everybody made it, and everybody had enough. We had a couple technical issues from folks traveling, but everybody made it through a Q&A that we could hear, which was fabulous. We had 4 people join us from different countries. So I was a little nervous about that. That's what happens when you do these in May. You get a lot of people on their vacations, but I think it says a lot that their leadership made the effort to join us, including from a boat. We had someone join us literally from a cruise. So very grateful for our arts leaders making time to be here. 49 panelists opted in, and each of those was assigned between 12 and 15 applications to review of organizations that were approximately the same size. We always have some attrition because this is so much work to read and grade. But this year I was really pleased that 31 of them finished the whole thing, and an additional 6 scored but then had a last minute illness or car trouble or the flu or something that they couldn't actually come in person, but they still did their scores. So 37 folks actually did all the work reading these really, really carefully. One thing that was new this year was we put in the guidelines that at some point during the year you had to nominate a panelist, either an artist from your organization or a board member or a staff member, to serve on any funding programs panel through the year. 6 organizations sent their folks to COP, which was new. Typically, we've not allowed that just for conflict of interest reasons. But I got really good feedback from COP organizations saying, why am I not allowed to sit on the COP panel for a different tier? Because that's the only one I really want to learn how to do better in the future, and that would really help me. I thought that was a compelling argument. And so we had 6 panelists who represented organizations sit on different tiers than their own. And all 6 walked away thinking, oh, now I know how to do that differently for my own organization's application. And it also, I think, lended a little bit of credibility to the panel that at least somebody in every tier had sat in the applicant's shoes and in fact had to fill out the same thing. I think that goes a long way towards establishing trust with our partners in the ecosystem. This was a long slog. Every panel met for at least half a day and gave their time in person while organizations joined us over the computer. And at the end of the day, every panel received at least 6 to 9 scores in full with no conflicts of interest. The cultural policy only requires 5. So I'm really pleased at how this shook out and how much really thoughtful and expert participation that we had. And I think it showed in the quality of the questions that we were able to ask the organizations that felt like somebody on the end had really read their stuff. Please do.
Commissioner Holomo?
Thank you, Julia. Can we go to slide 10, please? I'm curious about a radio station. Is this the first time we've had a radio station? Are we okay? Do the rules say it's okay? And what does that mean if KERA applies?
KNON has not applied before, but they have a season of programming that is including of in-person events. They have several music festivals, an art festival, a cultural world music festival, in addition to their radio programming. So they do indeed present a season. And so there was nothing in our guidelines that said they couldn't. KERA has not applied. I don't know that I'd consider them a season with the same in-person events with 50% or more in Dallas. I'm not sure they would be eligible, and they have not applied. So that has not come up.
Commissioner go ahead.
Just to follow up. So if other radio stations have a season that would be considered a season, that means we're gonna let them, even if they're, commercial successes?
I think
I'm
they
just
would still
curious,
need to
really
be
curious.
a nonprofit. KNON
Okay.
is Agape Broadcasting Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay, thank you.
And Tina, I just wanted to chime in support of KNON when it comes to supporting local art and local projects. No one comes close to doing what KNON does. I mean, they support local talent, local events, much more so than anyone else.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Thank you. I've got to say, the questions asked this year by the panelists were so far superior from years past. I was so incredibly impressed with the questions. And in years past, I mean, the prior year, I could say, okay, they're going to focus on equity, and that's all they focused on. And this year, it was all over the place, and it was refreshing to see that these panelists really knew what they were doing. So good job.
Thank you. I can talk about what we did differently this year to get closer to that, but honestly, the credit just goes to people who really, really, really gave the time and understood how important a funding year and just challenging time this is for many organizations. So panelists just really took it seriously. Gigi, could you go to the next slide? Okay, so, keep going. We did that one. If you were unable to attend, but you really want to chime in, we recorded it all. I have not had a chance to get it on YouTube yet, but I will, and I will send those links out to you. They will be private. At the conclusion of the funding cycle, so at the very end next fall, everybody will be able to request scores, their panel feedback, and an optional 30-minute conversation with staff based on panel and admin comments. And I do want to thank Commissioners Truzilla, Holomo, and Bragaloni for attending an entire day each virtually with us. It was great to have you, and I hope that if you have feedback on how to do it better, really would love to chat with you on that later, but thank you for being there. Okay.
Question.
Sir.
I was just wondering whether or not, I was my train of thought, but I'll come back to you.
Okay. Sure. Alrighty. Keep rolling. How we prepped organizations for Q&A. So everybody was sent an email with their time several times, 4 or 5 times, to the point that it was annoying. Their assigned time, as well as top tips of what to expect, like don't crowd the room with too many people. Remember what it is that you said in your application, because they could ask about any of it. And remember to think about outreach, impact, and programs you're really excited about, especially if they're different. What's not on this slide is how we prepped the panelists. We had a really involved orientation session that included walking through the application so everybody could see it and sort of what they were looking for. And we also, the day of the panels, had a last day of orientation where we talked about how to ask good questions. And then we had sheets of sort of example questions that if somebody didn't have an exact one for that organization, they could pull from the question bank. And both of those, I think, helped folks, especially new panelists, ask questions that were really relevant to the application and not sort of pulled from thin air, which I think helped keep everything in our 8-minute time. All right, let's keep rolling.
Question.
Sir.
Do the organizations take you up on the 30 minutes?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage you think?
Less.
Had to be a,
most I'd say about half organizations take me up before it's time to do the next application to get a scorecard. I'd say about a quarter or less take me up on the 30 minutes because people are busy.
Gotcha.
Overall themes, like Commissioner Trezilla said, this year's panel was really thoughtful. And so most of the questions were tailored to the individual application. So it was harder this year to sort of gather themes. That said, the ones that I heard that I think the most panel comments were about, just summing up our, 25 hours of panels, are one, can you really describe what it is you're going to do? Because a lot of organizations either threw every possible thing that they do in a year in the project description, and so that sort of clouded who the organization was if you didn't already know. And then we have a lot of organizations that build their season based on staff and audience participation, and those are often harder to describe your season if you're building it on the fly. So most organizations were able to discuss at least the process of creating the work. And I think it'll be really good feedback to give back to the organizations that gave us a lot of information on how to pare down in the future to the core messaging. We asked this year differently in the application, are you running a deficit? Please explain. We've never asked that as a straight up question before. We've just asked them to turn in their 990s. We also ask, have you had any legal conflicts in the last 3 years? If so, please explain. And that allowed organizations that were having challenges, COVID-based or not, to explain those, rather than have people that were already familiar with how to read 990s have to hunt. So there were more financial questions this year because more people wrote, yes, we have a deficit and here's why and how. We should expect, as a city department, layoffs and smaller headcounts coming from a lot of organizations. We should also expect a lot of pivots from what was written in the original scope, which I'll talk about in just a moment. On the brighter side, several organizations reference Ataka acceleration and board build programs and several other resources in our community, which says a lot about how well our organizations are collaborating, which is so cool. And I was really delighted to hear that. Several organizations also have already shared that there will be a reduction in programming from years past, as well as cost increases and diminishing support from funders and DISD. Several have already set some major public fundraising goals to meet those gaps, and we should expect more. Finally, obviously, our panel wanted to know strategy to diversify audiences, artists, and board. That was a really common theme, especially board. that is a across the board, regardless of your size, that is still an issue in Dallas. And finally, a lot of people wanted to know, how are you sustaining local artists in Dallas? And some organizations had really great answers for that, and some didn't, and you will see it in the panel scores. And that's what they said. Questions for that? Okay, great. I think I have staff updates too, so we can roll into it. First one is Arts Activate 2026 is open. Believe it or not, it is that time again. Our website is down. So normally I would tell you to go to artsactivate.com. Instead, we are going a little bit old school so that it stays open and the artists get all the possible time they have to do the application. So we have been emailing out this link. It is on our Instagram page. It has been sent out in a news blast, and we also need some help. If you know some people that may not have received this, everybody who is on commission has applied for it in the last 3 years, and has applied for culture, value, and COP also got this, but sharing is always helpful, especially while our website is down. Also, culture value is open right now. That is, I don't have a slide for it, but it is open right now. It closes on June 12th. We've had a good showing. We could use some more. As a reminder, that is where we pair artists with libraries and rec centers in the month of August 15th through September 15th. It is a fantastic program, especially for starting out Alana artists that may not have worked with the city before. It's a much shorter application than Arts Activate, and so it's a great on-ramp for new folks to get $3,000 for 1 day of a project where they don't even have to find the space. It's fantastic, and it's in every district. So please encourage folks to check that out. That too is getting an email blast and a social media blast while our website, unfortunately, is down. Okay. These are some dates. Arts Activate will be open until July 7th, and in August we will vote on this. Just as a note to the Allocations Committee specifically, this is earlier than usual. Normally we'd vote on this in September. We'd have one crazy month where we vote on Arts Activate Round 1 and COP. We moved it 1 month earlier so that we would not have that. It's wonderful to be able to award millions of dollars all at once, but it is also very challenging to be pushing all those contracts and everything through council all at once. So trying something a little different of pushing this round of Arts Activate just a little earlier so that we have a little more time to get those contracts running without smacking into COP in the very same meeting. So that's why we did that, and I hope it will be a smoother fall. Just as an FYI, there will be some COP organizations. We have not had this happen since I've been here, but COP applications are always a snapshot in time of the organization in April and what they think they will do the next year. Sometimes those organizations' plans change by the following October, and so we ask everybody, this is a typical thing, to finalize scopes of work in September before we sign that official contract. Usually that's like, oops, we're going to do Sleeping Beauty rather than The Little Mermaid. But there is a family show or something. Typically they're pretty minor. This year we may have some organizations that need to change drastically. For example, Dallas Children's Theater announced publicly in press releases earlier this week that the scope of their work will need to change due to a wide layoff of staff to address a deficit. And they were not able to bring that up in panel because they hadn't shared it with staff yet. However, the organization has since been in contact with OAC. And while DCT has been the first one to do this publicly, I am going to go on a limb and say that I do not think they'll be the only organization in this situation this year. So rather than coming up with a Dallas Children's Theater rule of how to address this, I would rather take some time to think about a general process for what do we do when an organization needs to seriously change their scope between April and October. And I don't know. So I need just a hair more time to think about it, but we will bring you some ideas on what exactly we're going to do with that in July. So thank you for your patience, and please know that that is coming. Okay, that is all I had.
Okay, there's no chair updates. Commissioner Lomo.
Yes, thank you. So Julia, thank you for letting us know about that. I mean, immediately the application is based on previous season's numbers. I mean, there just would have to be some sort of comment or a bullet or something that says, that the percentage of the funding is based on what you're going for, and then try to prorate it. That's immediately what came to mind. So, but thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you. Can we call on a couple more?
Commissioner Halom, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bragalone.
I have known about this a little bit just because I am the liaison for the Children's Theater, and thank you for your comments, Tino. I'm glad that Julia's going to take a minute to think about it and come to us with some options, because I think it's going to be a complex evaluation. For example, if an organization says we were going to do 8 plays, but we're only going to do 3 now, one of the questions is going to be, well, does that mean you're going to serve percentage-wise that many fewer children, or are you increasing the number of performances of those 3 shows? I just happen to know, since I'm their liaison, that one of the things that they have faced is a kind of flat revenue, flat donor, but a huge increase in costs, particularly production costs and things like that. So one of the ways they're addressing it is by shortening their season. But the numbers that they shared with me as their liaison in terms of how many children they're going to serve, because the biggest part of what they do, they serve, that we fund, relates to the school day performances through DISD. So you can see how that might be different from, say, another theater that just changes, shrinks their programming. So I think it's going to be, I think I've heard some rumblings from organizations. I think Julia's right. I think we'll hear it from other organizations. And I think it's going to be complex because what's causing the problem for each organization is different. How they're addressing it is different. And Julia, I just wanted to say publicly, I really support that you're going to take a minute and try to look at a holistic approach so that we don't have a Dallas Children's Theater rule, an Organization B rule, an Organization C rule. I think one of the things we've done really well on this committee, thanks to the work of everyone on the committee in the last few years, is really work at predictability and consistency. And that has been with the guidance of everybody on the staff. So thank you very much. It's really sad that we're facing this. It's going to be a hard year.
Commissioner Daniels.
I just wanted to say, since we're at the end of the meeting, that I have a huge amount of respect for staff. It's really interesting in these meetings to hear the not just the thought, because there's a tactical side to it. But the tactical side to it, I think, pales in comparison to the human side of it. And from what Rhonda said to Julia, to like everyone is thinking about it from the perspective of the humans that are going to be impacted by it. And so it's really encouraging. I said when I joined the commission that this was the coolest fucking commission to be a part of. I said it then and I mean it now, and I apologize for the swearing, but that is how true I feel about this. So staff, thank you so much for how much true thought and care you put into making this not only operationally possible, but also possible from a human perspective. So I just wanted to say thank you all very much.
Commissioner Truzillo.
Thank you.
So this probably isn't the right place for this, but it would seem to me that we know that these art groups are going to have issues this year. Is this the time that, as a city department, we could really amp up our marketing of things that are happening in Dallas, to residents and to visitors? Maybe do something with the CVB. I get told all the time, I just don't know what's happening, and then they go to the, what is it, the WRR site. They're like, oh, it's so overwhelming. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe maybe there's something there that we can do that wouldn't cost a lot of money, but could make an impact.
Any questions, comments? Keep in mind, I have to be somewhere at 6 o'clock. Commissioner Daniels.
Commissioner Trusilla, I love that idea. I work a lot with Visit Dallas. My team produces their annual meeting and has for the past 3 years. And kind of one of our goals in that has been to make sure that we're incorporating more of the arts into that programming. So there's always, they're technically CAP artists, but we're not getting them through CAP. And I say that, I bring that up to say, I know that there's a real heart at Visit Dallas. I do not reflect them officially, obviously, but I know that there's a real heart at Visit Dallas to make sure that we're telling a really robust story of the arts, especially if we start thinking about how do we craft that narrative in advance of the World Cup coming next year. So I think there's a definite opportunity for this. I actually have lunch with their CMO Tuesday, I think, to talk. It wasn't about this, but this will be a part of the conversation, because I really do think there's something there about how do we use the arm that's telling people about what there is to do in Dallas to let them know about the things that there are to do in Dallas. And I think in a lot of cases, when working on the annual meeting, it's literally just been a lack of knowledge. Like they don't know that it's happening over here. So let's let them know so we can tell more people. I love that idea.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, all business for the Allocations Committee has been completed. I call this meeting to a close 5:24. Thank you so much.
Thank you.